I just took a piss and I seen Lipton coming out, bro. What's up, my dudes? Is Supercross 5 worth the $60 price tag? Okay, so I've been seeing a lot of comments and shit on my videos and stuff. People still not really sure if they should buy Supercross 5 or if it's worth the money or, you know, whatever. And I feel like my review kind of was a little bit like I didn't really tell you guys to go buy it or not go buy it type situation. So you're still a little bit, you know, confused on what you should do. So I wanted to come in here and kind of dive a little bit deeper on that particular aspect of it, if I really think it's worth the money or not. And it's always very tricky with these Milestone games because it's all in what you compare it to. You know what I'm saying? If you compare this to like MX Simulator or MX Bikes or something like that, this is obviously not even close to being worth the amount of money that you pay for it. Now, if you compare this to like other Milestone games, you kind of start getting more in that realm of like, it's a little bit more worth the money when you compare it to the other Milestone games, right? If you compare this to like Reflex or something like that, no, not really worth the money. So you see how it's just all in what you compare it to, really, at the end of the day. But still, though, I want to get into like the overall content of this game, track content wise. I think is the biggest killer of me saying that it's really worth the $60. You know what I mean? I think that content plays a big part because really you got to go back and compare this game to the content that you got with Supercross 3. And I think that's going to give you a little bit more of an accurate comparison. Okay, so like, you know how the past couple Supercross games, like 4 and 5, these are all based. Whoa, Smithy boy hitting the jumps backwards out here. So, right, like 2020 and 2021 Supercross was all based off of those residencies in real life Supercross. So we didn't get all of the different like stadiums and all the normal places that we normally go with the Supercross series, okay? And with these Supercross games, they try to replicate it to the T as far as the different tracks and stuff like that. So what's happened here is with Supercross 4 and 5, you basically, in a nutshell, have like half of the amount of different stadiums and different dirt compounds and different areas to ride on. But not only that, also with the free ride compounds of both Supercross 4 and 5, these little outdoor extra Supercross tracks, like what I'm riding on right here, you only got like 3 or 4 of those in Supercross 4 and 5. Whereas on Supercross 3, you got like 7 of those. And they were way better in Supercross 3 than they are in Supercross 5 right here. Bro, I'm popping off on that jump right there. That thing is fucking peaked, boy. I didn't actually pop off right there. It flipped the bike forward, but you get what I'm saying, though. You don't actually pop off in this game, but it will if you land really hard on something like that right. And I mean, like, super peaked out, like the most peaked out backyard 69-foot double you can ever imagine in your life. You know what I mean? If you try to come up short on that, it'll just try to toss the bike forward, but you still don't pop off instantly. So there really isn't a pop-off system to this game. But I wanted to stay on this content thing here, though. Smitty boy riding the wheelie, Wet Willie Wednesday, dude, on my YZ450, dude. What I was trying to get at, though, is, you know, with Supercross 4 and 5 are a little bit more comparable in content. And Supercross 3, I feel like just had more / better track content in it. It just did, like, straight up. So if you're going to talk about straight up, like, track content, I feel like Supercross 3 was more worth your money than like, 5 is. You know, 4 or 5. So you can kind of imagine, you know how much more that added to the game? Not only the outdoor Supercross test tracks of Supercross 3, but also the motocross track on Supercross 3, I just felt like was better than the motocross track on the compound of 4 or 5. So you could just imagine with Supercross 3, you get all the different stadiums of all the different normal rounds that we would go to in Supercross. You get 7 completely outdoor Supercross training test tracks that are way more complex and better than the 4 training test tracks on Supercross 4 and 5, and the motocross track on the compound is just better and more fun and replayable in Supercross 3 than it is 4 and 5. So you just imagine all of that, and the fact that the track editor is really not that much different going from 3 to 4 to 5. It's really not. All they've really added with Supercross 5 is a rhythm section saver and like 2 or 3 more module pieces. That's it. That's the only difference to the track editor. And they really didn't do that much in Supercross 4 either. Okay? So as you can see right here, we have a Houston 1, 2, 3. Typically, you would only have one of these tracks. Okay? We have an Indianapolis 1, 2, 3. Orlando 1, 2, Daytona, Arlington 1, 2, 3, Atlanta 1, 2, 3, Salt Lake City 1 and 2. Okay, so you can imagine there's no Anaheim Stadium, Anaheim track, there's no Oakland, there's no Seattle, there's no there's a lot of different tracks that Detroit, and you got to think those are entirely different stadiums, entirely different looks to the tracks and feelings to the dirt and all that kind of stuff that's basically just stripped out of this game that would have typically been in a Supercross game if it wasn't for all the craziness that went down in real life, okay? So my whole point with that is you're still paying the same amount of money, but for totally less when it comes to stadium variation and track variation and all that kind of stuff. So what should have happened here is Milestone should have made up for that, like coming over here with a completely different kind of tracks that aren't replica tracks, okay? And they do have 3 little tracks right here that are super basic and boring. These are kind of like extra content Supercross tracks that are not on the compound, but they're not the official tracks either. They're kind of like that weird in between. But my whole problem with this right here is, we'll hop on this one right here, take a look at it. My whole problem with these, like, quote-unquote Milestone little Supercross tracks here, they're so basic. Oh my God, I'm literally looking at Saturn. Holy shit, Milestone. Why am I looking at Saturn, first of all? Holy nuts, boys. Wow, somebody dumped their orange Kool-Aid on the damn track, boys. I don't know what the hell this is, but yeah, as you can see, that graphical issue on the PC version of this game seems to be on more than just the Atlanta and the Houston track that I showed you, boys. But look how basic this track is, and that's how all 3 of these little extra Milestone Supercross track content is in this game. What, are you going to ride 2 laps on this shit and then get completely bored of it and then not ride on it anymore? Like, this is such a piss poor attempt at trying to put a little bit more track content in this game. What they should have done here, though, is they should have come in here in these little Milestone... Dude, I got to get off this track. I can't even look at this shit. They should have went in there and basically had, like, their Anaheim-style stadium and track, obviously without the rock area over there to where it really looked like the Anaheim track, you know what I mean, the Anaheim Stadium. And they could have had something that was like the Oakland Stadium and some of that other shit, some of those missing stadiums in this game. They could have had those in there, but then not called it like the official track. Do you understand what I'm saying there? Or just gave us more different kind of dirt compounds and Supercross track content. You know, they should have had at least 10 tracks right here in this quote-unquote Milestone category of tracks to make up for the lack thereof of the different track variation and the normal official track content of the game. Do you see what I'm saying? Because typically, right, you can see these different tracks that have like 3 different tracks in the same stadium, okay? That's cutting down the amount of time that Milestone has to put into it. You know what I mean? Because all they got to do is they got to come in there to that one stadium, and then all they're doing is basically changing the layout, going from one track, like Arlington 1 to 2 to 3. They're just changing the layout of the track. So you would imagine they would have that extra amount of development time to where they could go in there and give you, 2 or 3 motocross tracks instead of just 1. They could go in there and give you like 10 outdoor supercross tracks instead of just 4 little shitty ones. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, Milestone definitely did not make up for the lack thereof of content because of the residencies with the replication of this game. They just simply didn't make up for the lack of content. Period. But okay, so we're on another one of these Milestone default tracks in the game, but it's not an official track in the game. You see how Milestone can go in here and give you more Supercross track content without it actually being an official replicated track from that previous Supercross season. They're literally proving to you that they can do that. They just don't do enough of it, is what I'm saying. They don't give you enough of that extra, like, compound Supercross content and these like other little random Supercross tracks that aren't replica tracks. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if we're ever going to get to that day where we actually start getting proper like compound content. Like we used to get back in Reflex, Unleashed, Untamed, basically any other arcade dirt bike game ever, where it has like at least 3 different free ride tracks on it. I don't think we're ever going to get a Milestone game that's going to come out with 3 different free ride tracks on it. I just don't think that's ever going to happen, and that's really unfortunate. But I feel like they could certainly play around with like bringing back some of the older compounds that we've gotten in some of the other Supercross games. Like, I don't see why we don't have the compound from Supercross 1, 2, and 3, and 4 in Supercross 5. That would be a shitload of fun to go ride around those compounds with the newer physics of Supercross 5. Can you imagine how much more replayability and content that would add to this game? And you'd have to imagine that wouldn't take that much time to implement all of those compounds from the other Supercross games into Supercross 5. But Milestone just doesn't do it. They just don't do it. They try to do that a little bit with MXGP 2021 with bringing back like legacy tracks from the older MXGP games. Yeah, you were on the right track there, Milestone, but you have not done any of that with Supercross 5. And that's why it feels so lackluster content-wise and track variation-wise and stadium variation and all that kind of stuff, because this is not really any different amounts of content that you've ever gotten in any Supercross game. If anything, you could say it's a little bit less than a lot of the other Supercross games. That was pretty rough in Supercross 4, I'm not going to lie, having literally like half of the tracks in the same stadium with the Salt Lake City shit, but this is not quite as bad as that, but I feel like this is just ever so slightly better content than what you had in Supercross 4. But I don't feel like this was as good as amount of content that you had in Supercross 3. It's just not even close. You know what I mean? I just don't feel like it's even close, bro. Okay, so let me kind of try to get back to the original point of this video. Do I think it's worth the price tag? You know what I mean? So the physics do feel different in this game than any other Supercross game. Some of those people that try to say this game feels the exact same as like Supercross 4 or the physics are the exact same as Supercross 4, that's bullshit. This is not the same as Supercross 4. It's just not. Like, I'm not going to say this is the most changed physics system to a Supercross game, going from like one to the next. I would say the biggest change we've ever had is probably going from like Supercross 2 to 3. That was probably the biggest physics change, because you got to remember that's when they started adding where you could turn both your thumbsticks the same direction to whip. They started to give you way more of a feeling to the bike and everything like that than you had in Supercross 2. Supercross 3 really was, I think, one of the most changed like milestone games going from one to the next that we probably ever had. So, and I don't think it's as big of a change going from Supercross 4 to 5 as it was from like going from 2 to 3, but I do still feel like it's somewhat of a change, you know what I mean? But as far as like terrain deformation, it's basically the same shit or less than it's ever been. The rain mode is the same shit or less than it's ever been. You know, there's a lot of things with Supercross 5 you can tell that's just a lot of the things that's been pretty repetitive with these milestone games is still repetitive in Supercross 5, you know, like not really much of an advancement to the track editor or terrain deformation or rain mode or pre-made ruts or track, the way they design the tracks or whatever. All that stuff is still very, very similar. So when we talk about, is it really worth the price tag, I feel like that all comes down to your history with the milestone games and with motocross gaming. Okay, so in a nutshell, what I'm saying here is if you're one of those kind of guys that's gotten real tired with the repetitiveness of these milestone games and the Supercross games and everything, and you're just tired of spending all that money on it, I don't really think Supercross 5 has done enough different stuff for that kind of person for it to be worth them buying the game. I just don't think it has. I don't think it's changed enough different things or improved on enough different things for it to be worth it for that kind of person. You know, now if you're one of those kind of guys that you just love these Supercross games and you just play all of them and you really love the feeling of them and you don't really get too upset about the lack thereof of content and shit like that, and you know, you're more of a dedicated dirt bike gaming fan. You see what I'm saying? Or you're somebody that, let's just say, you haven't really played all of the Supercross games. Let's say you've only played like Supercross 1 and 3 or something like that. Then I do think this game would be worth picking up. You know, like if you played Supercross 4, if you played like 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's like you really got to be into this shit to want to buy this game. You know what I mean? For it to be worth buying this game. But if you're one of those kind of guys that didn't play every single Supercross game, or you're really just, you're wanting another dirt bike game to play, it would be worth the money to you. You know what I mean? But the feeling and the physics on the bike are definitely looser than they've ever been before. So it's going to give you a slightly different feel. So I think it's even more than slightly. I think it's like it's going to give you somewhat of a different feeling in this game because the entire physics system feels looser than any other milestone game out there. So that in itself is going to give you a different feeling. And for some people that really wanted that kind of feeling, that like looser, smoother whip system, more of a leaning forward and backwards hucking system feeling to the game, that sort of feeling to it, if you're somebody that's been looking for something like that and you wasn't a big fan of the super restrictive feeling, then I do think it's worth the money to pick it up, you know, just to feel that difference of feeling, right? So that's kind of the moral of the story here with Supercross 5. Is it worth the money or not? I think this is one of those games where it heavily depends on your history with what milestone games you've played before, your burnout level with the milestone games. You know, if you're one of them kind of dudes real burnout on this shit, you've been playing all these milestone games, they feel super similar to you, you're really ready for something different, I would recommend to dudes like you buying the games every other year instead of every single year, right? So you imagine like if you would have just bought Supercross 1, you skipped Supercross 2, and then you bought 3, and then you skipped Supercross 4 and you bought 5. You know, that probably would have been a lot more bang for your buck, a little bit more enjoyable doing it that way, and it's not going to feel as repetitive and so much of the same shit when you just buy it every other year instead of every single year. That's really what Milestone should be doing instead of the consumer having to do that. But nonetheless, I'm just saying, you know, if you're really burnt out with this shit, that would be a really good solution to that, you know, or wait until Supercross 5 gets a lot cheaper. You know what I mean? If you go down the prices of these games over the years, they just get cheaper and cheaper. The older ones get cheaper and cheaper, right? So like Supercross 1 is going to be super cheap right now. And then Supercross 2 is cheaper than it was. Supercross 3 is already getting cheaper than it was. You know, Supercross 4 is now going to be like 10 or 20 bucks cheaper. And then here in a couple years, this game will be 20 or 30 bucks cheaper. So it's just all in how many years do you want to wait? How many years do you want to go without buying a Milestone game? And that'll make it feel more fresh / more worth the money / whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I just can't even explain how much more it would add to this Supercross 5 game if you come over here to the compound and there's 3 different, totally different biomes, like a snow compound, a dry desert dune compound, and the woodland compound. Oh my God. That would add so much fucking more to this game. I can't even explain it, Milestone. Damn it. Like, I would play your game for literally 2 or 3 times the amount of time if you just had more free ride compounds or more free ride content in general. You know what I mean? Like, if they would have had 3 different compounds, 10 of these different Milestone tracks right here, and then all of the official tracks, I would say this game would be worth the $60. Do you see what I'm saying? For anybody, I would say it would be worth $60 track content-wise. But it just doesn't have that. You know? It just doesn't have it. And it's like, shit. That would add so much more, man. So much more. All right, let's get back on this compound again here. I'm going to put this... Now, you can go in here and change, like, the... you know, the weather. They still got all this cyclic weather mode. We'll put it on night and put this on variable. There we go. You can kind of personalize that just a little bit. But like I'm saying, though, all of your stuff that has already been pretty repetitive in the Milestone games is still repetitive here. You know, even though the physics are looser and different and there's more leaning forward and backwards and all that, you know, it's still very repetitive with terrain deformation, track editor, track content, like no pre-made on the tracks. You know, there's a lot of elements that makes this game repetitive, but I'm telling you, that looser feeling on the bike and that slightly smoother feeling to the whip system, it does give the game an interesting, different, more replayable feeling to it than I've personally felt in a lot of the other Supercross games. I do feel like the physics and the feeling of the bike is going to, for some of you guys, give you a lot more of a replayable, enjoyable, smoother gameplay experience than you've had in some of the other Milestone games. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind there, because that does play into the, is it worth this amount of money or not, you know? And they do have the helmet editor in this game, so there's a little bit more of a layer of customization editor to it, but they don't have the gear editor, they don't have the bike skin editor, they don't have any other kind of editor, but they do have a helmet editor. So that'll give you a little bit more something to spend your time on in the game than some of the other Milestone games that just didn't have that. But I really feel like Supercross 6 is going to be a lot more worth your money than Supercross 5, because Supercross 6 is going to come around and it's going to replicate the 2022 Supercross season. So not all those residencies. You're going to get all those like different kind of stadiums and dirt compounds back. You would have to imagine Milestone would put in at least a gear editor at the bare minimum in Supercross 6. You know, you did finally get the 2 strokes for free when the game first came out with Supercross 5, but you had 2 strokes as paid DLC in Supercross 4, and then you had it in Supercross 3 with the Legends DLC. But, you know, you do have 2 strokes, right? Supercross 5, customizable. So that's a extra little layer of content that might not have been there in, like, Supercross 1, 2, and 3, okay? But, you know, there is some more content and some kind of ways to this game. That's why I try to say it's just all in how much you played these games and how bored of the repetitive nature of the games you really are with it, you know. I buy all these games to review them on YouTube, period. So, you know, if it would have been up to me, if I wouldn't have been doing YouTube, I would have done more like what I was telling you boys, where I would have bought like Supercross 1, and then I wouldn't have bought Supercross 2, and then I would have bought Supercross 3, and then I would have skipped Supercross 4, and then I would have bought Supercross 5, just to simply make it more fresh, not sit there and burn $60 every year on it. And if you include the MXGP games and the DLC, fuck, dude, you're burning like at least a hot like $250 a year on strictly Milestone dirt bike games, okay? $250 a year. Shout out to Rowdy, $250, okay? So you can see what I'm saying there. But nonetheless, I mean, that's kind of where I sit with this game at the end of the day. It's just, I don't know. It's tough when I'm in this situation of like in between, but there is a lot of repetitive content. There is a lot of not as much content as you would have thought. But like I was saying with Supercross 6, I think we're going to get the gear editor, might even get the bike skin editor. And then obviously they're going to continue to carry over the helmet editor. You would have to imagine in one of the near future Supercross games we would get, you know, like the Speedway stadium and the track editor, where we can start making hybrid style Daytona, Atlanta Speedway style tracks in the track editor, and that in itself is going to add a shitload more content. So you imagine a Supercross 6 if it had a better compound with better compound Supercross tracks, all of the different normal Supercross tracks in the game, not the residency shit, right? And the helmet editor with the gear editor with the bike skin editor with the more improvements to the track editor, okay, you could imagine how much more replayability and content and community and everything that would add to like Supercross 6 or 7. So I really believe those one of those games, 6 or 7, is going to be like actually really worth $60. I think we may finally get a Milestone game that's actually really worth the price tag, right? But another thing to remember with these Supercross games is, you know, you consider and talk about, well, you're paying for all of the replica, you know, riders in the game, like a NBA 2K or whatever kind of game, you know what I mean? All of the like, you know, EA, you know, all those different kind of replica sports kind of games out there that try to replicate all the stats and everything like that. The thing you got to remember with the Supercross games is, unlike the MXGP games, they're not even replicating that year that the game comes out. So it is bizarre when you get into, especially like Supercross 5, and you realize that Jason Anderson is still on a Husky, Tomac is still on a Cowie, you know, Plessinger is still on a Star Yamaha. So in a sense, everything is a year behind with the Supercross games, but it's not with the MXGP games. So I don't know if Milestone's ever going to get that a little bit more like accurate or closer to the actual real life thing with the teams and shit. I would think they would at this point, but I don't know, man. So either way, nonetheless, I hope this gives you a little bit more of an idea on if this game's really going to be worth your money, but don't expect anything big and different terrain deformation-wise. Don't expect anything big and different with the track editor. Don't expect anything big and different. I mean, really, the only new features to this game are the rhythm section saver to the track editor, the helmet editor, and the physics feel more loose. That literally is just about the only real new things to Supercross 5. some of those things are big things, you know, with the looser feeling, and I feel like they changed some really critical good things to the physics, which adds a lot more replayability and skill gap to the leaning and all that kind of stuff. But you see what I'm saying? But it's just all in how burnout you really are with the Milestone games. But like I say, this ain't no reflex level worth $60. This ain't no MX Simulator MX Bikes level worth $30 or $40. It's none of that kind of shit, okay? But if you just try to kind of like compare this to other Milestone games, I mean, it's just kind of a, like, I think this is probably a little bit more worth your money than like Supercross 4 was, but I don't think it's as much worth your money as like Supercross 3 was. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like right there in that range. That should give some of you guys a little bit more detailed of an idea on if it's really worth it or money or not wise. So either way, man, hope I explained that the best way I possibly could. This is what I do out here, man. Try to explain it to you boys. We still have no real enduro tracks in the game, no real any other kind of racing content. They did add the ability to free roam on any track in the game, so that's kind of another new feature that wasn't really there before, but should have been there before. So like I say, you know, two-strokes free, customizable two-strokes free from without having to pay for them as paid DLC. That's in here. So you do get some of those kind of things. Some of them are kind of a slap in the face of like Milestone should have just gave that to you in Supercross 4, but you get what I'm saying though. You do get the customizable two-strokes. You do get the free roaming anywhere. So like there is some things that kind of warrant the money a little bit, but there's also other things that's like, what the fuck? With the lack thereof of track content, lack thereof of improvements to the rain mode or terrain deformation, terrain deformation or track editor, you know. But nonetheless, yeah. So I don't know, man. I can't really just come out and say don't buy it. I can't really just come out and say buy it. It's kind of a, I think some people it's going to be worth the $60 and some people it's not going to be worth the $60. And that's where I come down to at the end of the day with Supercross 5. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Be sure and go follow me up on Instagram, Spencer Turley, no spaces and no capital letters. And I'll see you boys on that next one.